Ever stop and wonder why your job is structured the way it is? I mean, who even came up with the idea of a manager? Well, it turns out it's all the result of this epic, century-long tug-of-war over how we should work. And the story starts with a company that tried to throw the whole idea out the window.
So picture this. It's 2013, and the online retailer Zappos does something that sounds kind of crazy. They get rid of all managers. Poof! No more bosses, no more job titles. They made this huge bet that their employees could just manage themselves. I mean, it sounds like a recipe for total chaos, right?
So you have to ask, how did we even get here? How did we go from the super rigid factory floors of the past to a point where a major company would even think about going bossless? Well, the answer is a fascinating century-long battle of ideas.
For over 100 years, management has been pulled in two totally different directions. It's this constant conflict between two big ideas. Are we supposed to be managing the things of production? Efficiency, data, and systems? Or are we supposed to be managing the humanity of production? Things like motivation and engagement.
This is really the heart of the whole conflict. On one side, you have the view of an organization as a machine that needs to be optimized. On the other, you have the view of an organization as a community that needs to be nurtured. And just about every management trend you've ever heard of has pulled hard in one of these two directions.
So here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to start with the rise of the machine view. Then we'll get into the human rebellion that followed. After that, we'll see how these two ideas tried to merge together. And finally, we'll look at the big one, how AI is completely changing the game today.
Okay, let's head back to the late 19th century. Factories were booming, and they desperately needed a new way to manage huge groups of people. The first big answer that came along was simple. Treat the whole organization like a perfectly oiled machine, fine-tuned for maximum possible output.
This whole idea was called scientific management. The goal was to find the one best way to do any given job. You replace old habits and rule of thumb with precise scientific procedures, all in the name of cranking up productivity. And this quote from Frederick Winslow Taylor, the father of this movement, just captures the mindset perfectly. He believed management wasn't some kind of art form, it was a hard science. And in this world, workers were simply parts of the machine that needed to be optimized. And you know what? It worked. Oh boy, did it work. At Bethlehem Steel, Taylor's methods took the amount of steel a worker could load in a day from 12.5 tons all the way up to 47.5 tons. That is a nearly four-fold increase. The results were undeniable. So while Taylor was laser-focused on individual tasks, you had other thinkers like Max Weber and Henri Fayol building the larger structures around them, the bureaucracies, the hierarchies, the rules. Together, they basically wrote the blueprint for the modern corporation as we know it. But all of this machine-like efficiency, it came at a human cost. People felt like they were just cogs, and that sparked a kind of rebellion that would change management forever. It was finally time to discover the human factor. The real turning point came from the famous Hawthorne studies. Researchers went into a factory, fiddling with things like the lighting to see what would increase output. But they discovered something amazing. Productivity went up no matter what they did. They realized it wasn't about the lights, it was about the attention. Simply feeling seen and valued made people more productive. This became the absolute core of the new human relations movement. The idea was that true motivation doesn't come from a manager with a stopwatch. It comes from within the individual. This was a total 180 from the old top-down model. This thinking eventually grew into what we now call the human resources perspective. The goal wasn't just to have happy workers. It was way more ambitious. To design jobs that were actually meaningful. To create work that let people use their full creative potential. McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y really put this whole divide into sharp focus. Theory X is the old machine view. People are lazy, and you need to control them. Theory Y is the new human view. People are creative, and they want to do good work. And here's the thing. Whichever one you, as a manager, believe, well, it tends to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, after all that back and forth, where does that leave us today? Well, modern management isn't a simple choice between one or the other. It's actually a pretty complex blend, a mashup of both sides of this historic struggle. Two big ideas really define this modern approach. First is systems thinking, which sees a company not as a machine, but as a complex web where everything is interconnected. And second is the contingency view, which is a fancy way of saying there is no single one best way. The right approach always depends on the situation. And you can see this mix in the real world.
A big survey of what tools managers actually use shows that things tools like strategic planning and advanced analytics are right up there with humanity tools like customer relationship management. The modern manager really has to be fluent in both.
And this brings us right back to where we started. The big trend today, the one we see in companies like Zappos, is a major swing back toward the humanity side. Companies are flattening their structures, empowering teams, and betting big that if you trust people, they will do amazing things. But now, a totally new force is entering the arena. And it's not a management philosophy, it's a technology. What happens when artificial intelligence enters this century-old struggle? So, what do we mean by AI here? Well, essentially we're talking about computer systems that can learn and make decisions to take over a lot of the routine, administrative, and analytical work that people have traditionally done. And here's the wild twist. A thing like AI might actually be the key to unlocking more of our humanity at work. By automating all the repetitive, data-driven stuff, AI could free us up to focus on the things only humans can do: communicating, collaborating, and being empathetic. And we're already seeing this happen with things like nudge management. This is where an AI analyzes data and sends a little prompt to a manager, like, hey, remember to ask your team for input. It's literally using technology to coach managers on how to be better, more human leaders. Which leaves us with one last huge thought. After 100 years of trying to balance the needs of the machine with the spirit of the human, could AI, the ultimate thing, finally be what solves this puzzle? Or is it just going to create a brand new struggle we haven't even imagined yet?